Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. In 1914, British explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton led the Imperial Transatlantic Expedition, hoping to be the first to make the cross-Antarctica trek via the pole on foot from west to east by using dog sleds. Before even making landfall, however, their ship, the Endurance, captained by New Zealander Frank Worsley, became trapped in ice for 10 months in the Weddell Sea. In time, it was crushed by ice floes and sank, leaving the 28 explorers stranded on the pack ice. Shackleton and his 27 crew members established a number of consecutive camps on various ice floes, moving their 3 wooden lifeboats, tents, sledge dogs, and food stores in the process. The crew remained essentially optimistic and accustomed themselves to diminished food stores, as well as to a diet consisting largely of penguins and seals. Eventually, the sledge dogs were executed and cooked. The men claimed that they were delicious. After a little over 1 year of trekking over the drifting ice, the men were able to launch their 3 open lifeboats and managed to reunite on Elephant Island, where they established a camp on a bleak, narrow stretch of beach. They were on solid ground at last, but it was clear that they couldn't survive on the island indefinitely. Shackleton, affectionately known as the Boss, decided that the only hope for survival for his shipwrecked team was for a few of them to attempt to row 750 miles through the Drake Passage in an effort to reach South Georgia Island. There, help could perhaps be found to rescue the stranded men. He selected Frank Worsley, who was an outstanding navigator, and 4 other heroes to join him and set out on his daring mission, leaving the stranded men on Elephant Island under the leadership of Frank Wilde. Chances of Shackleton making the trip and returning with help were less than poor, but Wilde was convinced he would indeed return one day. After a while, in order to keep up the morale of his men, every morning Wilde would pack up his gear and be ready to leave. "The boss is coming back," he would say, "and it may be today." Meanwhile, Shackleton, Worsley, and the 4 others rowed their 22-foot lifeboat across the stormy South Atlantic Ocean with minimal supplies of food and water. Confronted by 80-foot waves and 60-mile-per-hour winds, miraculously, they reached the west coast of South Georgia Island. Fearing that further sea travel would result in certain death, Shackleton selected 2 members to accompany him in crossing the frozen island on foot to find civilization and help on the east coast. In a 36-hour period, they overcame numerous setbacks. They climbed mountains that are thousands of feet high and avoided certain death by freezing in a struggle to fetch help from the Stromness whaling station. It was the first successful overland crossing of the island. Weeks passed, but back on Elephant Island every day, Wilde kept packing his gear, ready to leave. "The boss is coming back, and it may be today." In Stromness, the Shackleton trio were idolized by experienced sailors who were in awe of their achievement. Shackleton rescued the remaining 3 men of his party on the other side of South Georgia Island and immediately attempted to organize a rescue of the men left behind on Elephant Island. 3 times he had to give up when the rescue ships were impeded by pack ice. But finally, after 4.5 months, Wilde's belief was rewarded. The boss came back. A Chilean ship managed to get Shackleton and his 5 colleagues to Elephant Island to rescue the remaining 22 members of the expedition, all of whom survived and returned safely to England. Now, Jesus also promised to return, and he told believers we must be ready all the time. He explained if a homeowner knew exactly when a burglar was coming, he wouldn't permit his house to be broken into. You also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. In bygone days that I remember, Christians would sometimes end their letters with Maranatha, which means the Lord is coming. The Lord is coming. Some time ago in England, a young man named Leo from a charitable organization helped me move furniture for a refugee family. I had never met Leo before, so I wanted to make conversation. "Do you go to church, Leo?" I asked. "Yeah, man, a Baptist church." "So you're a Christian?" "Yeah, man. I'm living for Jesus, and he's coming back soon, man. He's coming back soon." Leo was ready. Will had no idea when Shackleton would return, but he was sure he would, and he did return. And we don't know when Jesus will come back either, but come he will. We're not on the program committee, but let's at least be on the welcome committee. Will you be ready when Jesus comes? Maranatha. And thank you for tuning in once again to Village Church Connections.